episode number 93, Ironman UK with Kevin Nuun. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I have the pleasure of talking to my friend Kevin Nuun about his recent race experience at Ironman UK in Bolton, where he had a time of 12 hours, 59 minutes, 29 seconds. Kevin has been racing in triathlons for 5 years now, and this was his fourth full-distance triathlon. This race took place on July 15th, 2018, and the temperature on race day was 55 and rose to 78, and where the water temperature was 74.3 degrees Fahrenheit or 23.5 degrees Celsius, which is a wetsuit legal swim. Welcome to the show, Kevin. I look forward to hearing about your race experience at the amazing Ironman in the United Kingdom.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to actually be with you, and I'm looking forward to letting everybody out there know of my experience.
Awesome. Well, what made you want to do this race in the first place, man?
Well, I'm actually from the UK. I was born and bred in the UK, so that's where all my family are. The reason I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, is I married a Canadian lady and moved here after finishing my army career in 2004. So I did my 22 years colour service, moved over here, was a personal trainer with Club Phoenix up until 2008. And then since then, I've been working with the Saanich Police Department as the equipment officer, which is a phenomenal job because I start work at 6 a.m. in the morning, finish at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which works really well for training. Okay.
Now, going into triathlon, did you have a background in any of the three sports?
No, actually. I didn't swim. I could get in the water and mess around. I played a lot of football growing up. And so that was my sort of running around. I was into a bit of mountain biking, but not road bike. And the reason I got onto a bike was because in 2013, I was requested to be part of a team for the Cops for Cancer Tour de Rock, which is a big bike ride that happens every year and goes from the top of Vancouver Island all the way back to Victoria. And it's raising money for kids with cancer. And I was a special guest rider. So that was where I got into riding, and I've run a few half marathons, and I didn't see myself as a runner. But once I got into triathlon, that's when I actually started all three genres, actually quite intense.
Okay. So how's your training going into this race?
Really good. This is probably the best I've ever felt fitness-wise. I got a coach. And I work with B78 Coaching, and the guy that founded that is Jasper Blake, who was a professional triathlete, and he won Ironman Canada once. And I watched him when I came to the island, and he was a very inspiring chap. So my coach right now is Alicia Bulmer, who works with B78 Coaching. So she's my triathlon coach. I also have a swim coach, Kylie Ackford, who works with B78 Coaching and West Shore Aquatics. And I also run with a group called West Coast Running. And the guy that owns that is a guy called Jason Ball, who, again, is another phenomenal triathlete. So I've got a great group of people around me to support me. And my number one support is actually my wife, Diana. So without her, everything I do wouldn't be possible.
Right. Now, what was your longest swim, bike, and run workouts going into this race?
Well, with Alicia, my coach, she knew, I think I had the three genres. Swimming probably was my least favorite, shall we say. So she got me in the pool and in the open water more frequently. And she would work on some days where it would be just techniques and sprint training, and then other days where it would be that longer, slower, but getting the distance in. And living here in Victoria, we're pretty lucky with the weather. So once the water temperature for the lakes is warm enough, I'm mainly doing most of the stuff outside.
Okay.
So,
were you doing a lot of bricks in training?
Sorry, what?
Were you doing a lot of bricks in training?
Yeah. It was great working with Alicia and Kylie, my swim coach. They would get me in there, and one of the things is I'm very strict on is if I'm not doing well, tell me. I don't like, oh, that wasn't too bad, or if I'm, as I put it, crap, tell me, Kevin, that was crap. Where I was going wrong, so I can rectify that issue.
Right, and that makes sense because that's part of a coach's job is to not put smoke up your butt, just tell it like it is.
Yeah. No, I want to know. Yeah, if I don't want to know, oh, that was okay or whatever. I want to know what the issue is. Give me the issue to rectify, and then keep on it. So I'd be swimming, and I'd get one sorted. Like my breathing was a bit of an issue to start with, so I'd get that right, and then I would be crossing over with my left arm because I was concentrating more on that. So it was great. It was every time something was going wrong, it was Kevin, and so I've come such a long way, especially in my swimming, and the confidence that builds is phenomenal because to go into open water swim with 2,000 competitors all going in the same direction, and they call it the washing machine for that reason, and that was my fear. But I go in there now and I just don't care. I'm going to be tapped, I'm going to be smacked, I'm going to be crossed over, I'm going to be cut across, and I just breathe and I just get on with the swimming.
Right.
And this race actually in Bolton is probably the worst it's ever been. It was 2 laps, 1,900 meter laps. And then you had to come out the water, do a little run around, and then get back in. And the first 1,900 meters was, crazy. I've never been hit as much.
Really?
Yeah, but the second was pretty good because people then had moved away and there was more space and it was less frequent of the people coming across your path.
Okay. Now, going into this race, what sessions did you do that gave you a confidence to go into this race prepared?
Well, I turned around to all my coaches and I just said, this is where I've had issues before, whether it's in the swim, on the bike, or on the run. And so they worked on those issues and really focused on getting my mental state right as well because of those issues.
Okay.
So I think that was key.
So what workouts did you end up doing that gave you confidence?
In the water, getting more people in the water. We bring a few more people in and have that closeness and getting people on purpose cutting across you, constantly tapping you, catching you on the bike. For some reason, I'm not a hill guy. Usually I weigh around about 200 pounds, but I've dropped quite a lot for this race. I was down to about 193, and then I went to about 187. So for me, I've never been this lean.
Okay.
Which did help on the bike. But yeah, for some reason, whether I'm on a bike going up hills or I'm running, as soon as I get to that incline, I would struggle. So Alicia got me doing more hill workouts and doing sprints, go from the bottom, even if it was for 30 seconds, 60 seconds or 90 seconds, as hard as you can go, turn around, come back down, quick breath, go again, just to get the legs and the body just redefined in the aggression of incline.
Okay. Now, were you doing a lot of strength training, like in the gym, going into this race?
Yeah, I love my gym workouts. So she'd get me in there doing the strength and the core work as well.
Okay. Now, what kind of nutrition were you using in training versus in the race?
Nutrition over the last few years, I've been working on it, and it's always been an issue. I've not had a race yet, and this was the same on this way. I've not had stomach problems. So I started off, and I'd be happy with the Gatorade or whatever was on course, and then I tried to get something that I can work on, and so then I went to Tailwind, and in fact, not before that, Carbo Pro. I took Carbo Pro last year, and that seemed to work, along with that med salt to get in the electrolytes. And on the 70.3 races, never have an issue with tummy or anything. It's always that longer race where the tummy issues will kick in. So I think this year has been the best year on the tailwind. The tailwind I really enjoyed. And I went to Lara Bar as well. And so the Lara Bar being a whole food, and I was having one Lara Bar every hour. And then the tailwind would be 3 scoops, and each scoop was 25 grams of carbs. And I would have that per hour, 1 bottle per hour. And it seemed to work pretty well. About, I would say 5 weeks ago, I started having tummy issues, and I wondered whether I'd become lactose intolerant. So I was working on cutting out the dairy and stuff. But even on this race, 15 minutes into the bike, my tummy was upset. So I actually stopped eating the Lara bars, and I was just drinking my own juice. Sadly, I lost 2 bottles. One popped out the back, one popped off the front. And so I went to the nutrition that they were using, what was innovative or something of that nature. So I just adapted and thought, well, that's what it is. That's what I've got to do. So the tummy was a little bit upset most of the time, especially on the run. But you've just got to work through it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get all to the finer details of all of the actual race coming up. So with your training going into this race, what was the most hours you spent training in 1 week?
Let's have a think. I was probably doing around about, anywhere between 15 to 20 hours a week.
Okay.
Training. Because I started work at 6 a.m., and if I had a couple of sessions to do, I would be up at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I would go and do my hour bike or 2 hour bike or run before work. I would then finish work, and then I would go and do whatever other training session I had to do.
Okay. Now, what do you do for work?
I'm the equipment officer with the Saanich Police Department here in Victoria. So everything they wear, everything they use, from clothing to body armor to weapons, is my responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a full-time job?
That's a full-time job, 40 hours a week.
Wow. If not more, I'm assuming.
Yeah, sometimes I will go in earlier or stay longer if needed. Great job, love it. It's more like a hobby to me than a job.
Right. Now, you also have a wife too, Diana.
I certainly do.
How long have you been married?
We have now been married 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with work, that's something that's going to take at least 40 hours a week of your time. Your training is at least 15 to 20. And then you also need to have at least 56-ish hours of sleep a week. How are you balancing life, work, and training and spending enough time with her?
I'm very lucky. I'd say Diana is my number one supporter, and I'm blessed to have her in my life. And she's not one of these people that will just sit around and wait for me to come home and finish my training and then go, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? We have a beautiful house, a beautiful garden. She is into the garden in a big way, so she's happy to do her thing. But on weekends, when we can spend more quality time, I'll probably be out on the bike if I've got even a 6-hour ride, I'm probably out on the bike at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm off, do my run off my bike, and I'm trying to finish by lunchtime so that I've got the rest of the day to spend quality time with Diana. And the same on Sundays, I'll be up. I've got a 2-hour, 3-hour run, same again, get that done, and then come home and I'll say, right, what do you want to do? And sometimes it's just quality time in the garden together, and she's happy that way.
Okay. Now, going into this race, did you feel like your training was on point and you had the right amount of training going into it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, like I say, working with my coach, Alicia, and my other run coach and swim coach. And they knew what this race meant to me more than the other races, because I was going to be on home soil with my family coming to watch. So I want to be at my peak, have it as my best race, and be switched on. So they were focusing on getting me ready. So yeah, it's the best I've ever felt fitness-wise, without a doubt.
Wow. Now, I know this is your fourth time doing this race. If we compare the 4 times that you've done the full distance race now, how was this taper going into the race versus the other 3?
Taper's always weird because for me, you feel like, once you're tapering, you're cheating, that you're not getting those final, training sessions in. And that's where the mind starts to play, and the self-doubt. And have I done enough? This, that, and the other. But I think I was more at ease knowing how my body felt. My body felt good. And knowing I had to travel as well was important to know that I'm going to be feeling a little bit jaded when I got there. And so that's why the race was on the 15th of July. We actually flew from Victoria on the 8th and arrived in the UK on the 9th to give me that full week to get settled, to go and recce the course, and feel good about myself.
Right. And you also wanted to travel earlier to make sure that the time zone wasn't really that big of an issue getting on that time zone, right?
That's right. Yeah, I don't have too much problems traveling and jet lag. And although I don't sleep on a plane, it's not something I can do. Sleep is a big issue with me anyway. I'm a bad sleeper. But I wanted to get there, get settled, get a few training sessions in that my coach had me doing, just on that taper, and just feeling confident and ready.
Okay. So the race is obviously on the 22nd, back
the 15th.
The 15th, and you traveled on the 8th to give you a whole 7 days before the race. Did y'all get a rental car? How was the logistics getting over there?
Well, that was the other thing. My biggest concern was my bike going to make it, because went down to Phoenix in the March of this year to do some training, mostly cycling. And I've learned very quickly that the baggage people do not like to look after the baggage, and they don't care whether it's a $12,000 bike or just a small suitcase. They just want to chuck it around. And when my bike arrived, my bike bag was broken. And then when I opened up the bike, I've got a P3 Di2 Cervelo, and the front brake and the I2 lever was bent inwards. They'd broken my water bottle carrier off the back. So very disappointing. So my concern was, when I flew to the UK, was I going to have any damage? Was the bike going to be in good condition? And believe it or not, my bike bag yet again was broken. One of the wheels was sheared off of the bottom, but the bike itself was in good condition. So the stress of that, actually, you think about it constantly. So it was nice to get it opened up, and I repacked it differently, and I got more sort of foam wrapped around the bike this time than I did last time.
Okay. Now, what kind of bike bag are you using?
It's the Ski-On, the soft bag, the triathlon bag. So all I have to do is take off the wheels and place them in the side, so I don't need to take the aero bars off. I don't have to take the pedals off. But I just bought more foam and more padding, and I wrapped it, really wrapped it. And I took off my rear water bottle carrier so that couldn't be bent. And it seemed to have worked very well.
Okay. Now, being that they damaged some stuff on the way to Phoenix, did you get reimbursed for that? How does that work?
Well, that was no, actually, because when I booked through Expedia, and then when I went to claim, it was, bikes are not covered on the insurance. I'm like, really? So this time I went through my own insurance company to go to the UK, and I said, look, I want my bike insured. I want me insured. I want Dan insured for any eventual thing that could happen. I want to be 110% sure, and I want it covered for the full amount. So if something happens to my bike and it's completely damaged, I know there's $12,000. I can go and buy a new bike. So that was good. One thing I did learn is this, and this could be quite important to most people traveling, that your bike is insured when you travel and and when you're training. The minute you're in a race, your bike is not insured.
Really?
Whilst you're racing. Yeah. and I don't know that's with every insurance company, but she said to me, my insurance company said, yeah, they won't insure you whilst you're racing, but they will whilst it's in transit and whilst you're training. But the minute you're racing, you are not, the bike is not insured. You are, but the bike isn't.
Wow.
So just for a lot of people out there, check your insurance that when you're on race day, that you have insurance, because you could find that your bike is not insured whilst racing.
What kind of insurance do you have?
I've got my own house insurance, and I go through a company called Meggs and Fitzpatrick, and they're awesome. They're really good. It's just that then when they go outwards and get their companies they work with, they wouldn't cover race day.
Wow. Now, if we take a look at when you got to the UK, did you have any layovers on the way over there?
Oh yeah, we traveled. We traveled from Victoria to Toronto, and then Toronto into Manchester. So we had one stop.
Okay. And what kind of airline did you fly on?
Air Canada Rouge.
Okay. Pretty good with them?
The Air Canada and Air Canada Rouge is sort of same company, but Air Rouge is like a smaller part of their company. So the seats were a little bit smaller, not as much leg room. I wouldn't go that direction again because we did it coming back and we had a 5-hour 40 layover, and you can go direct 9.5 hours. This worked out. We were traveling going over about 27 hours and the same coming back. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's with all the stops and everything. I wouldn't do that again. I'd fly from Vancouver directly into Manchester, which is a 9.5 hour flight.
Wow. So looking back on it, the travel seems like it was a lot worse coming back, and you're probably a little fatigued from the race too.
Very much so. Yeah, it was a long journey. So by the time we got up at 5 a.m. to leave to go to Manchester Airport, drop off the hire car, and then get on the plane, 7.5 hour flight coming back, 5 hours 40 layover in Toronto, and then another 4.5 hours, and there was delays, and we moved 4 times to different gates within that time because there was gate changes. So it was, a bit of a nightmare.
And I'm sure you're over here thinking, oh my gosh, my bike, every time you change gates.
Correct.
Because I know I would be about, oh my gosh, now my bike's going to be lost. Now they have to move my bike again.
Yeah, that was my concern, especially going over for the race. My concern was, one, my bike is now on the way to somewhere different, or secondly, it gets to me and it's broken, and I can't ride it because obviously I'd be done.
Right.
So that's a huge concern.
Now, going into this race, were there any days where you just mentally didn't want to train?
No, I'm pretty good with my training. I'm very disciplined. I say I was 22 years with the British Army, and disciplined that way. So my goal is, and it's true, the only bad training session is the one you didn't do. And so even if I didn't really feel like it, I would go and do it. But most of the time, I'm up and I'm out, and I like to get it done.
Wow, that's really good. Now, whenever you got to the UK in Manchester, you got a rental car, or what you called a hire car?
Yeah, a hire car, yep.
Okay.
I got the hire car for the 17 days we were staying in the UK. So, I actually didn't get the hire car that I'd actually booked through Expedia, because once I got to Avis, the car rental place, they said, oh, how much luggage have you got? I said, oh, I've got my bike bag, and then I've got 2 suitcases and 2 carry-ons. She's like, yeah, the Peugeot 305 that you'd requested, you won't fit anything. So actually, I had to upgrade to get a bigger vehicle that cost me a bit more money. But sadly, I needed that to get all my luggage in. Okay.
Now, was it that big of an issue getting a rental car in another country from Canada?
No. What you have to be careful of, though, is the insurance. So you can take out insurance here, but I decided when I spoke to my insurance company, she said it'd probably be cheaper to get it in the UK. I'm not sure it was, although I did get a more expensive vehicle. I ended up getting a Mercedes, which was a nice to drive. So my insurance alone worked out like £335. And if you equate that, that was for 17 days. And around about the exchange rate was 1.7, so nearly double. So nearly $700 just for insurance.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
that was
your normal insurance that you use in Canada doesn't cover for that
no,
over
doesn't
there.
cover. You'd need to get different insurance.
Now, do you need to have your driver's license? Do they recognize your driver's license?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, the driving license is okay. So they just want to see that you can actually legally drive, and you're good to go. Yeah, they do all the paperwork. And then what you got to remember is also, though, you're now driving on the other side of the road and you're sat on the other side of the seat driving that car because so I'm used to that anyway because I come from that country and I've driven all over the world. But just for that little bit, you just, okay, drive on the left. So, again, it's another thing to consider.
Wow. Now, whenever you got there, how far away from the race venue did you actually stay?
Well, we were staying, the race was in Bolton. And I've got one sister that does live in Manchester, but I was staying with my mum in Bradford, which is Yorkshire. So it's a good hour and a half from the race venue. So what we did was we arrived on the Monday, went to my mum's, and then on the Wednesday I drove down to Bolton. I wanted to see Pennington Flash. I wanted to maybe go and drive the bike course and have a look at just the area. And then what we did for the race weekend, we stayed with my sister, and because she was only around about 3 kilometers from Pennington Flash where the race start was, so which was perfect. I was very lucky that way. Yeah, so one of the issues was my wife and I went down on the Wednesday to drive the bike course, but it was very difficult to navigate it and not knowing whether it would be the right bike course. And the reason I say that is there were some fires on the moors, and so they actually did change the bike course 2 days prior to race day. So the bike course was actually made slightly shorter because of the fires. But what they did was they made it more technical. So, and we're probably going to come on to the race anyway, so I'll talk about that then. So, but just to go down there, but on the Friday when we went down to stay with my sister, her husband, my brother-in-law, we actually went and drove the bike course. And I'm so pleased that we did because the technical issues were amazing. The steepness of some of the lanes, where we're so used to big roads here in Canada and the same in the States, over in the UK, it's not the same. There was a lot of lanes, a lot of country lanes that had switchbacks, so you'd be going down, and if you were going too fast, you were actually in a world of hurt because you wouldn't be able to slow down enough to just quickly switch back up the lane that's going the other way. And one of the pro athletes actually did injure himself on the day and broke his collarbone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good that you actually got to do that with the course. A lot of people don't have the ability or the comfortability, is that a word, I guess?
Yeah.
To do that in that country, because this is like, you're going back home and this is like your stomping grounds in a sense.
Yeah.
And you feel comfortable there. You're very familiar with the atmosphere, the people, the setup. You understand all that, where somebody like me, if I go over there, it's not going to feel the same level of comfort. I'm going to feel like I'm in a different atmosphere. I'm a different world where you're just right at home.
Yeah. I must say, the people of Bolton, and especially on race day, were phenomenal. But you're right, because I understand the mentality of the people over there, and I've gone over a week prior to the race, whereas most people traveling are going to be looking at the finances and probably knowing that you have to book in on the Thursday, Friday, are probably only going to leave and get there about 3 days prior to the race. So they don't really have time to go and drive or ride the course. They're going to be just going from what they've seen on the map that's been produced in the instructions.
Right. Now, we're going to skip a few days here in your itinerary to go ahead and get to when you start checking in at the village. How was this process for you?
The village, that was okay. So it was downtown Bolton, right in the town hall. And so parking, not knowing Bolton itself, I wasn't sure where I was going to park, but I had a sat nav in the car, so I just punched in the town hall postal code, and that took me, and I knew that I would be just a couple of minutes of walking into the village. So that was pretty okay, and very straightforward. So I was booking in on the Friday afternoon after having driven the course with my brother-in-law John, and walked in, and I was actually disappointed with the village itself. I thought there was only, I would say, 12 to 15 other retailers on the outside of the tent where the merchandise tent was for Ironman Bolton. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't that impressed with the merchandise for Ironman Bolton.
Really?
There didn't seem to be a lot. I bought 2 T-shirts, a new pair of goggles that I knew I needed, and knowing that at the finish it was a finisher's T-shirt and not a ball cap, and all the races I've done have been ball caps, and I'm not a cap person, so all my ball cap finishers are all on mannequin heads in my bike room. So I actually purchased a ball cap that says Ironman Bolton on it, and I'm going to get Finisher 2018 engraved into it so that it'll go on a new head in my bike room. So, but yeah, I have to say I was pretty disappointed in the merchandise tent as well. Booking in was fantastic though. Walked in, people there ready to receive you, very quick. And this is the other thing you have to consider as well. I have my BC triathlon license for British Columbia, and I suppose it's the same in the States. To race in the UK, you had to buy a UK license, which was £5.
Wow.
So you can't race on whatever license you've got in your own country or your own area. You'll have to get one unless you're from the UK or different countries. So that cost me £5. So once I got the license, you could then go upstairs, and then you went and booked in and did all the waivers and got your bag and your swag, etc. That was very straightforward, very quick. I think done within 20 minutes.
Okay. Now, in regards to cell phones, did you use your same cell phone and just get the international plan, or did you get a SIM card? What was that like?
I actually, my intentions was not. I went to speak to my company here that look after me, and they said, your phone's unlocked. Once you get to the UK, just get a SIM card and put one in. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a fortune. So when I got to the UK, that's it. Just SIM card into the phone, and you can like pay as you go. So you can buy a $20 one, a pounds one, £50 one. So, and then if it starts to go down, you have to get a new one to carry on using it. So that was straightforward.
Okay. Now, did you get a little bracelet that you were supposed to give to a volunteer or a spectator?
No, it's funny. We didn't get any of those in the UK. And every time it's happened here in Ironman Canada and the 70.3 here in Victoria, you give them about 4 or 5 to give to the volunteers to say thank you for volunteering.
Wow. I mean, we're not even really to the race yet, and it seems like it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, initially I was a little bit. It's funny, I spoke to my wife afterwards. I said the vibe I got initially was I wasn't impressed. Of those 2 aspects of the merchandise tent, the retailers that was there, I think that could have been twice as big. And when I filled out the survey afterwards, about a day ago, I put those comments in that I feel that you should have had better merchandise there, and you should have had more suppliers selling their goods. Gotcha.
Now, in regards to the day before the race, you're getting all your bags ready. What are you putting in each bag?
So for my transition one with all my bike kit, so that would be my helmet. I wear gloves all the time just because of the position of my bars and getting sweaty. So My gloves were in there. My cycling shoes were in there. I wear socks, so my cycling socks were in there. And I think that was it. Yeah, that was my transition 1. And then in transition 2, coming off the bike, what had to be in there as well, in the UK, you have to wear your run number reverse, so it's on your back. Whereas other races, I've never worn that before until you go on the run, but you had to have it on and facing back. I think maybe the reason for that is when the officials are coming along on the motorbikes, they can actually see better numbers, and if they need to pull you, then they can do so. Not sure if that's the case or not, but that was strange for me to actually have to have my running number on during the bike phase, which was flapping in the wind so many times.
Right, and you're not the first one to mention this, and I'm almost certain by now, I've interviewed a few people that have done European races, and I'm pretty sure that's a European thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done, let's say, Whistler 3 times, and you don't need to wear that until you come off the bike, and that would be in your transition 2 bag.
Right. Now, going into the bike bag, what was in there aside from your gloves? Did you have any cards or any kind of note cards to give volunteers or anything like that?
No, this is actually the first. I'm a bit mad with myself. I've done that in Whistler every year, and with a little bit of rushing around that was happening, I completely forgot. I just usually get a Starbucks card or a gift card to say, thank you very much for volunteering. But what I'm really, really passionate about is that I verbally tell probably nearly every volunteer I see, thank you so much for volunteering, whether I'm down in transition, going into the water for the swim, or on the bike, or even on the run.
Okay. Now, for your run bag, what are you putting in your run bag?
Run bag, very basic. It had my running shoes in, and I did put a second tri-suit in, just in case something happened on the bike. And let's say I come off and I rip my tri-suit, I wouldn't want to be running in that, so I put a spare tri-suit in that.
Okay. And you're checking your bike in the day before the race starts, right?
Correct, yeah. On the Saturday, we had to take all our kit down to Pennington Flash for transition 1 and the bike. And so the bike was in, that was checked, that was then hung, and then the bike bags were hung in the tent, like up in Whistler, they were laid on the floor. But in this one, it was actually on hooks with your number on. So once you came off your bike, racked it, and then ran through into the tent, you would go to your hook, bring your bag off, and then use the kit that was in the bag.
Okay. Now, you put numbers on your bike. Did you crop the numbers to put them on your bike a certain way?
No, the big thing there is that you're not supposed to actually alter the numbers. So what I've actually done on the back of my bike is with 2 zap straps, I've got a police notebook cover, which is black, very hard plastic. So I actually made my own holder. And so when it comes off the back, very simple, peel the sticker down one side, down the other side, looks nice and neat.
Good. Now, going into this race, the day before the race, were you trying to get a certain meal plan or a certain meal in the day before the race?
My biggest eating day was actually the Friday.
Okay.
Something I've discussed with my coach, and this old adage of carb loading, this, that, and the other, I think it's gone by the wayside. And as long as you eat what you normally eat so that you're not messing with your body, then you shouldn't have any issues. And I'm a very healthy eater. My wife and I are, we're into all our vegetables and all good food. So I do have cheat days, but on the whole, I eat very, very well. So on the Friday, it was just lots and lots of food, starting from breakfast, lunch, evening meal. And then I had a big breakfast on the Saturday morning, and then a little bit less than what I had at lunchtime. And by the evening meal, it was mainly more of a snack type meal, so that I knew that when I got up the next morning and I did my business, I shouldn't have any issues whilst I'm on the bike or even on the run.
Okay. What time were you trying to go to bed the night before the race?
Oh, I'm big on that. I try to, even if I don't sleep, I'm probably in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. Because
Wow.
I knew that the alarm was going off at 3 a.m. for me to have some breakfast the next morning.
Right. Now, how much sleep do you actually think you got the night before the race?
This is probably the best I've ever slept before the race. I probably got a good 4.5, 5 hours, which for me is superb because races before I probably haven't slept at all, maybe the odd 10 minutes wake up. But I said earlier on in the interview, sleep is my biggest issue. I'm a bad sleeper. Even normally, I can go to bed at 8:30 because I'm up at 5 every morning to go to work unless I'm training. So if I go to bed at 8:30 and I'm getting up at 5, that's a lot of hours. I may only get about 4.5, 5 hours sleep within that, and that's interrupted.
Right. Now, do you think the years in the military helped you develop working on less sleep?
Yes, very much so. You're designed to, you sleep when you can, and you get what you can, and you work on what you haven't had. So I don't really feel tired ever. And I'm not a one for napping either, because I'm scared if I do nap, I'm taken away from what I could have when I do go to bed in the evening. So it seems to work, the way that I do things.
Okay. Now, let me rephrase that. What time did you wake up on the morning of the race?
I was up at 3 a.m. on the Sunday morning, and I went downstairs and had a couple of slices of toast with some peanut butter and started drinking some fluid, and took a banana with me. So we left the house. Transition opened at 4:20. So I wanted to, I'm lucky enough, my sister was taking us to Pennington Flash because they'd organised where you could park just outside Pennington Flash and walk through the golf course. So it was nice. I didn't have to rush, go get on a bus and queue and wait. So we got up, we left around about 4:20, got there for about 4 o'clock, started walking through. Transition was open and went through, started putting my fluid on my bike, my nutrition, pumping up my tyres, and then getting ready and just getting the old mind focused.
Okay. Now, how much PSI did you use for this course?
How much, sorry?
How much PSI did you use for this course?
110.
110?
I always do, yeah. I always put 110 in. Depending if I know it's going to be red hot, maybe I go 100, but most of the time 110.
Okay. Now, with this course, how deep were the wheels that you used?
Mine are 723Cs.
Okay.
Yeah, I race on them all the time.
Nice. Now, in regards to your bike itself, do you have a power meter on there?
I do, yeah. I have the Garmin 3S, the new one, double pedals, which I only started working with around about a year ago, and I love it. It just gives you a different form of training and something to look at, and that's what my coach then worked on my power as well as my heart rate.
Okay. Now, are you using a watch or are you using a bike computer? What are you using as far as technology goes?
I've got both, actually. I've got the 920 XT watch and I've got the Garmin 1000 as well. So I use both. Just in case one fails, I've got backup that I love data. It's good to look back on. It's good for the coach to look at, and it helped me in my training.
Did you use a watch on the swim?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
On the triathlon mode. So, yeah, in for the swim, on, pause, come out onto the bike, pause, go onto the run. So it gives me. The only downside is that even with a fully charged watch, I've noticed though, and my time was 12:59, 29, and a good half an hour prior to me finishing, it's telling me I've got a low battery. So you've got to be very careful what you've got open on your watch. Because if you're longer, then I would say around, if you were doing about 14 hours, your watch is probably going to die.
Wow.
If you've got other stuff on. I switched the power meter off on the watch because that really drains the watch. So I just used it on the Garmin, on the computer on the bike.
Okay. For me, I have the Garmin 930 or 920, and then I also have the Garmin 1000, and I found that combo is just really bulletproof.
Yeah.
Now, whenever you actually left transition to go to the swim, how far away is transition from the swim start?
The chute. So I would say from the bike going down the chute into the water around about 200 meters. Yeah, quite a distance. So once you finish the swim and you had to run down, and then you had to go into the tent first of all, put your kit on before you went to your bike. So yeah, a nice little run.
Okay. Now the swim start, how far away from transition is it?
Yeah, about 150, 175.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the final few minutes before the swim starts for you, are you getting any last minute nutrition in, any hydration? What's that look like for you?
Just drinking a little bit of fluid. That's all. That's all. Just keeping the mouth nice and moist, and because you do start to dry up, because you start to think those little panic modes come in, and you're now being squashed into the tunnel and the fences either side, and they do the same again because it was a rolling start. You were positioned 50 minutes, an hour, hour 10, hour 20, and I always put myself in around about the hour 20 because I know my ability, and I was a little bit slower than that this time, but that's just due to I think everything that was going on with the first 1900 meters, because my second 1900 meters was faster than my first.
Right. Now, you've done the mass start, and now you've experienced the rolling start. Which do you like more, and why?
I don't either. They're both, I think, as good. Something about the mass start is just to watch is just phenomenal, I think. But I can see why they've gone to the rolling start. I think because people do fear the mass start and the washing machine effect. And the way they worked it here at the 70.3 this year and even in the UK was good. So you went down a couple of seconds, let a few people go, a couple of seconds. So it did spread out. However, I don't think people position themselves really well, especially probably the first timers, because they're unsure of what they're going to do. So they actually might be faster than they think, not giving themselves credit. So all these people are going to be passing you. And so that's you feel, you see that space, and that space all of a sudden is gone.
Wow. Now, right before the gun goes off, what was your mindset going into this race?
I actually quite shocked how calm I felt. My goal, when I go into a race, I have 3 goals: cross the finish line, have a great race, crush it. And as long as I get one of those 3, I've achieved my aim. My goal is to get to Kona. I'd love to go to Kona, but there is so many phenomenal triathletes out there. My age group right now is 55 to 59. And I said, I did 12, 59, 29. The guy that won Ironman UK came in at 9 hours 34.
God.
In my age group. That is just blows my mind. I came 23rd out of 79 in my age group. And he came in, and I look at his swim, and I look at his bike, and I look at his run. And he was phenomenal in all 3, obviously. And I look at all those people that came before me, and majority of the time it's the run. Usually the run is where these guys are on fire. But this chap, he was from the UK as well. When I saw that time, I'm like, wow. Because I'd looked at the last few years, and I looked at the times, and I looked at what I thought I could do on the day, and I'm like, I could possibly come in the top 10. But it all depends who shows up on the day.
Right. And what condition they're in.
Correct.
And what kind of weeks coming up into that race they've had.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, but my goal is to get to Kona, so I'm hoping that my body allows me to keep going. And whilst it does, I'll keep going. So even if it's in another 10 years and I'm in 2 more age brackets ahead, and I'm in my 60s or whatever, my goal is to try and get there. So that's a challenge. It's a nice challenge for me individually, a nice challenge for my coach to try and get me there. So we shall see.
Good. Now, walk me through the swim course. The gun goes off, you get in the water. How's the swim go?
Again, not bad apart from it's the worst I've ever felt of being battered. The whole first loop of the 1900 meters before you get out the water, do a little run around and get back into the water. That was brutal. That was a tough 1900 meters. And I lost count how many times. Yeah, smacked on the heel, smacked on the head. Goggles nearly came off once, crossed over. And but the second loop was a lot better.
Good. So you get done with the swim, you have a decent swim, and you're coming out of the water. Is there wetsuit peelers there?
No, there's no wetsuit peelers.
Really?
Yeah. So you come out the water, you run down the chute, you go all the way down to the chute, into the tent, you strip yourself, you change, throw all the stuff into your transition bag, and leave that at the end of the tent, go around to your bike, grab your bike, and then from your bike to the start line, I would say is about another 75 meters to get on your bike over the line.
Wow. Now then, you get out on the bike. How's the first few miles of the bike ride go for you?
Actually felt great, yeah. I felt strong. I felt strong coming out the water. Got on the bike. My goal is for that first bit is not to overdo it. Just get on, feel the legs, taking a bit of nutrition, and then once that first 5 to 10K is in the system, see how you feel, and then start stepping it up.
Okay. Now, did you have a strategy of how you wanted to attack this bike ride?
My goal was to stay nice and comfortable for when I come off the bike to have a good run. But 15 minutes into the bike, again, my tummy started to be really doing weird things, churning, and I thought, here we go. So I had a couple of pieces of Larabar and sort of calmed it a little bit, but I was frightened that I was going to have to stop and keep going to the bathroom. So I stopped taking in the hard nutrition. So I just was then drinking the fluid.
Okay. Now, the 15 minutes after, say, mile 50, how are you feeling?
Felt great. Yeah, really good. I mean, the bike course was a tough bike course. It was undulating, which then became hilly. And it was the descent. You think that you obviously, most people think, as soon as I get down on those descents, I can hit 60, 70. You couldn't. Well, I wasn't willing to do that because they were these country lanes. The roads weren't the best of the roads in some areas, and there's a lot of bends, and you've got other people that you've got to consider as well. And then as you got to the bottom of the hills, it would be quite a tight turn. And if you weren't switched on, and that's why I'm so pleased that I actually drove the bike course, so I knew what was coming, then you could be in a world of hurt. I was very cautious. So I can't remember what my average speed going down hills were, but it wasn't fast, which slows you down because that's where you can make up some time usually.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, with your tummy issues going into the later portion of the bike ride, had it settled down?
No, it seemed to get worse. I actually stopped twice. Had to use the porta potties, it wasn't pleasant. But so I knew something was wrong, and that goes back to like say weeks ago when I started having these tummy issues that I'm working on right now. But fitness-wise, strong and fit. I did have 2 mechanicals.
What happened?
At about the 110 kilometer mark, I went to change gear, and all of a sudden the rear derailleur didn't want to go through. So I had to get off the bike, and I'm like, what's going on here? So I'm turning the pedals, and I could see the derailleur was going backwards, but not allowing the chain to come through the loops, the two rings. So I'm so shocked. I actually kept very calm. So I was there for about 15 minutes, just changing gear from big ring to small ring to try and then it rectified the issue. I don't know what was wrong. I got back on the bike, off I went again, and it did it in around about the 130k mark again. So that took me another 10 minutes, and that was it. Never did it again. So I'm not sure what was wrong. And I rode this morning, and I had no issues. So that cost me a little bit of time, but that's all part of triathlon. You just got to. I was just hoping that it wasn't the end of my race.
Right. Now, around mile 85, 90, or I guess in kilometers, 180 to 200, how is your mindset? I know by that time you're probably getting a little bit worn down mentally of going up and down these country lanes that aren't really that best of quality. How was your mindset?
Mindset was great. No, I felt good. I was excited to get off the bike because I knew that at Transition 2, that's where I would see my family. They would have come down now, my brothers and my sisters and my mum, and they would be waiting at that transition for me to come out. So I was excited to see them.
Okay.
So no, the mindset was great.
Good. Now, whenever you got ready to get to T2, the last kilometer or two before you get there, are you doing anything to prepare to start running?
Yeah, I just I actually the mindset starts to think about the run. I actually come off of the pedal a little bit and don't go as aggressive, so go into a low gear and to take a little bit more fluid in. I would at that point probably take a little bit more nutrition had my tummy not been feeling the way it had, and so because what you do on the bike sets you up for the run. So I knew that the run wasn't going to be pretty. But I was so excited to get off and get going on the run.
Good. Now you get to T2. Is someone there to take your bike from you?
No, you rack your own bike.
You racked your own bike.
Yeah, you came in, and again, that's the first time that's happened to me. So you come in through the top entrance. You stop at the line, you get off, you run your own bike in, you rack your bike. You then go into the change tent where again you pick your bag off of your number.
They don't have it there for you.
Nope, it's where you hung it the day before is where you will get it the day you take it off.
Okay.
So so you go in. There are a few volunteers in there, speaking with you and helping you out if you need any help. But you go in, you take off your bag. So it was bike kit off, running kit on. Out the chute, and as I went out the transition, the tent, there was an aid station there to be able to get some water and whatever. And at that point, I hear all this screaming and shouting, and that's my family, which it's just exhilarating.
That's awesome. A little bit about the transition tent here. Is this a co-ed tent or is this separated?
It's co-ed.
It is.
Yeah, it's everybody. Yeah, it's the 110. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all 2,000 races.
Wow. Now, you're heading out on the run, you see your family, and then you get about another kilometer or two down the road, and you really start to understand, okay, I still have about 40K to go here. How was your mindset at that point?
I got onto the run, and that first few steps, especially with the screaming and the shouting of my family, was great. And then I realized I had heavy legs. It's like, and the tummy's churning and whatever. And so and you've got to be careful not to go off too fast, which I have a mistake of doing usually. So as soon as I started going, I looked at my watch and I tried to go at 6 kilometers an hour, which I got it to. And so, but wasn't a problem anyway because the legs were heavy. And then you ran down the road. And then the first bit was to go into town, in and around the town hall, come out of town, and then go into Queen's Park. That's when you realize this was not going to be a good day, when you saw the hills. Queen's Park is very hilly. And what they'd done, because they'd shortened the bike course slightly because of the fires, they changed the run course for this year and made it harder. And it was 4 loops of the course. So you had to do it 4 times. And so I knew in and out, and not many people were walking up those hills. Running up those hills. So I knew it was going to be a tough day, and it was a warm day.
Right. Now, as far as the humidity, was it humid as well?
Very humid. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, my tri-suit was absolutely soaked, but every opportunity I would throw water over me, drink some. But then I'm always very cautious of, especially when the body's feeling off, of taking stuff in. Because what happened, I tried running up a couple of hills, and every time I tried to run, I felt I was going to be sick. And that was just the turmoil of my body. So my strategy became walk the inclines, run the flats and the downhills. And that worked pretty well for most of the routes.
Now, when you realized it was going to be a warm day going into this race, how did you prepare mentally for this warm day? Or did you have little things to help you along the way for a hot day like this?
I've been very fortunate because of living here, Whistler. In 2015, when I did my first Ironman in Whistler, it was rainy, hailstormy, worst day ever. But then 16 and 17 were 32, 33s. So I'd already done a couple of the falls in the heat. So I, mindset-wise, was expecting to feel uncomfortable. And I knew every time I got to an aid station, it would be walk the aid station from the beginning to the end of where all the nutrition was in the fluid, and it'd be drink some and soak the body. So I would throw it over my head. I'd put ice down my front, down my back of my tri-suit, and I would do that all the way along and then get going again.
Okay. Now, talked with a few athletes that did Ironman Boulder this year down here in the States, from you at least, about what they were doing on the course for the athletes. And what they were doing is they actually had big tube socks from the race organizers, and they would stuff them with ice. And then they were passing those out to athletes. So instead of the traditional sponges, they had the sponges and the ice socks.
Oh, yeah. Sadly, none of that.
Wow.
There was none of. However, the people of Bolton must be they're absolutely phenomenal. They must have shut down Bolton completely and gone, we're all going to go watch Ironman, because the support was second to none. I thought I'd seen it up in Whistler, but thousands and thousands and thousands of people came to watch these individuals suffer. And it was brilliant. The encouragement was absolutely outstanding. And along the long road, Chorley Road, that seemed to go on forever before you got to the turnaround point, there was one chap stood there all afternoon with his hose pipe, and he hosed anybody down and I got it every time. I walked up to him and I stood there for a couple of seconds. It added time to my run, but I didn't care. And he drenched me every time, took the sunglasses off, drenched me, off I went again. And he was there the whole time.
Wow. So if you think of it from just a cost perspective, running a water hose for 5-6 hours, maybe 7.
Yeah.
That cost at least $200-300 American dollars.
Yeah. He was awesome. And then the other things as well were you had kids stood there and they had little cups or bowls, and they'd have gummy bears or they had fruit in them, just stood there offering the athletes as they went by. It's the best support I've ever seen.
Wow.
And that kept you going as well, because you're feeling hurt, you're feeling sore, you're suffering, you're tired, but the motivation that came from the support that was on the course was just second to none.
Wow. Now, were there any bad spots on the run course where it wasn't supported and the bad demons of the race actually came to play mentally? Not
on the support wise. I go through the dark spots a lot, but I've learned to deal with those. And the way I do it now is I think of the finish line, and I think of the people that are going to be stood at that finish line, that are going to be screaming and shouting. And one thing I admitted to say, the reason I got into doing Ironmans was because of a friend of mine, Victoria Shannon, who actually produced the tri-suit that I wore this year. She did a painting, and from the painting, this tri-suit emerged, and it was all the British flag and had some Canadian on it as well. Because all the races that I do for charity.
Really?
Yeah, so I've been involved with this Cops for Cancer Tour de Rock, which is dealing with kids with cancer for 10 years now. And each year I've done something crazy, from pulling a car to I'm not usually blonde. This is my Billy Idol look, and it all started from that. So my race on race day 2 weeks ago was raising money for kids with cancer. So how can I fail and not cross that finish line and let these kids down? So that's a huge motive. So when I'm feeling down and I'm in those dark places, my family and the people who are waiting for me at the end of the line, and those kids keep me going.
Wow. Now, the final few kilometers of the race, how does that go for you?
The final few kilometers were actually probably the best, because you're coming to the end. It's those middle ones where you're really struggling. But yeah, even the last lap, it's 4 laps of 10 point whatever K. And even that last lap, as soon as I start heading out again, even along that long Chorley road, I'm smiling. I'm smiling inwardly. I'm smiling on my face. I'm having a laugh with all the supporters, and because they remember people, especially in a loud tri-suit like I was wearing. Yeah, I knew the end was in sight, although I couldn't see it. But you visualize coming down that chute and hearing those magic words, "You are an Ironman."
Wow.
And that keeps me going as well.
So the last 800 meters of the run course, the barricades start lining the road or course, and then you start to see the carpet ahead. How was that feeling here?
Oh, it's electric. It's actually hard sometimes to put into words, because you know what you've gone through. You know, from the minute you started training the year before or whatever, to all the support you have, to starting on that day going in the swim, to all of a sudden coming around the town hall with everybody screaming and shouting, and then coming around the corner and then hearing my family screaming and shouting, and hitting that red carpet is just, it's magical.
Wow. I mean, I've heard of people crying as soon as they hit the red carpet because they know it's over.
Oh yeah, I had tears in my eyes. Yeah, it's emotional. Your body's so drained. You've gone through so much, and you realize what you've just achieved. And I don't think there hasn't been one where I haven't had tears in my eyes. And then knowing that I'm going to be walking through and hugging my mum, who's seen me do this now for the first time live, very special moment.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, as soon as you cross the finish line, what do you do next?
Cross the finish line. There's volunteers that have stood there with your medal, waiting to put your medal on. So I actually turned around and looked at the crowd and put my arms up, and as if to say thank you to Bolton, and then I received my medal, and then you walk around the corner into the tent where you pick up your winner's T-shirt, and there's food, and all the other athletes are in there, and you're saying, congratulations, and this, that, and the other. And at this point, I'm not feeling very well. My tummy is really giving me grief. And so I move outside, and there's just thousands of people. You're trying to get through the crowds to get to your family. And then I met my family. I didn't eat any food. And I'm usually like that anyway after a big race. And then we stood there talking and having a couple of photographs. And then I knew what was coming. I said, my wife was there, and she said, "You're looking grey." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I need to just move away now because I'm going to be sick." And I just went away against a wall and I let it rip. Yeah, I knew it'd been coming for at least the last hour, and I just held it back. And I think just the relief of the finish and everything. And yeah, I was a little bit ill for a couple of minutes, and stood back up again. Okay. All right. I'm okay now.
You got that out of the way.
Yeah.
Now, in regards to this race, how well prepared do you think you were?
I think I was really well prepared. I trained hard. I'd listened to my coaches. I'd focused. I'd got everything, all my dots and T's done, and I was ready. It's the best physical shape I've felt, and I was mentally ready. And you just don't know what to expect on the day, and you've got to take whatever comes your way. And my biggest thing is, I'm not going to let it beat me. You're not going to let it beat me, and I say that all the time. And I won't. My goal is never to have a DNF because of something that I can control. If I can't control it, fair enough. But if I can control it, then it's not going to happen.
Right. Now, if you could change one thing about your race before the race started, what would you change looking back on it?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't think anything. Yeah, I think I'd done everything I needed to do. I think I was well prepared. So no, I think I do exactly what I did to get to the start line, and just hope that everything goes according to plan.
Okay. So what's something that you learned about this race experience that you would like to pass on to people who haven't done this race before?
If you're going to be going to do Ironman UK, then look at all the logistics. If you're traveling from another country, if you're coming from the States or you're coming from Canada or whatever, think about time of being there, and if you can, go and recce the routes, because it may help you on race day. Go there, see what you're up against. Don't feel. I hate to feel rushed. I feel that if I get there too late, then I'm running the whole time, and I like to be walking. So yeah, time evaluation I think is very, very important. And where you stay, I think could be important as well, because of the dynamics of the finish line and the town hall where all the briefings are there. But then you've got transition 1 and Pennington Flash where the swim is. And then you've got transition 2, which is where you come off the bike, which is 10-minute walk from the finish line. So once you finish, you then have to go and get your kit from transition 2 because it's not at the finish line.
Right.
So all those type of logistics, and the roads are closed, or where do you park? You know, if you're not staying after you finish racing, am I going to be able to get out? So a lot of logistics. So the sooner you can get there and look at the layout of the land would be huge.
Okay. Now, we covered a lot. Do you have anything else to add about your race?
I just think that it was a good race in the fact that I was mentally and physically well prepared. Sadly, the tummy issues took over, and it wasn't my. I thought I was going to have my A race. I was hoping for about 12.5 hours or less, without the mechanicals, without the tummy issues. That was definitely in line, but that's what triathlon is. You just don't know on the day.
Right. How could Ironman have made your race experience better?
I think Ironman could have made it better by definitely better merchandise. You travel a long way, and if I'm going to spend some money, I want something to remind myself of why I went there. And I don't think they had that for me personally. But that's probably the only thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Apart from that, great day, great experience.
Now, for first timers that are doing this race, what advice would you give them?
Definitely go prepared. Definitely go prepared. It's a tough course. Yeah, it really is. So put the training in, put the time in for recce. Go there if you were going to, because I know people will go there who are racing on the Sunday and get there on the Friday. I personally wouldn't do that. I would get there at least on the Wednesday so that you've landed, you've got over the jet lag, you can book in on the Thursday, use the Friday to put all your kit together before you have to hand it in on the Saturday so that you're race ready for the Sunday.
Gotcha.
Give yourself time.
Now, what's next for you?
I may go do Cultus Lake in September, which is in Vancouver. But that might be my triathlon over this year, which I'm happy with if that's the case. I'm already looking at Victoria Marathon in October, which I do each year. And I'm looking at Santa Rosa in May of next year, Ironman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you registered for that?
Not yet, but I think that's the one I'm going to be doing. And we'll do a road trip. We'll drive down and make a bit of a holiday out of it as well for my wife.
Okay.
But, my goal is to do at least one, maybe two Ironmans a year. Definitely one. So if I do Santa Rosa in May, there could be a chance I could do one later in the year. Because usually I've done the 70.3 here in Victoria for the last 4 years. But if I do May Santa Rosa, the half iron here in Victoria is like the first weekend of June. So that wouldn't probably be feasible for me to have done a full iron and a few weeks later then go do the 70.3 here. So
yeah, you'd have Lake Placid or Mont Tremblant right up the road.
Yeah, so that could be maybe a 2 Ironman next year.
Yeah. Now, we've covered a lot in this episode. So how can athletes follow you? I'm
on Facebook.
Okay.
Kevin Nuun, and if you want to follow me, please do. You'll see I've got a tattoo of Ironman on my calf, so you'll know that's me. I'm on Instagram as well as CoolHand858, so you can follow me on Instagram. So, and I would love that. That would be super.
Cool. So, what races are on your bucket list aside from Kona?
Any Ironman. And for me, it's about challenging myself. So, just look at what the funding is, what time of year it is, can I get away, and get as much experience at different races as I can.
So I only have one more question, and this is always the best question to ask, and I love hearing everybody's answer. And I'm really glad you haven't listened to any of the episodes yet because you didn't get any ideas of what this question is. So it's perfect. So the name of the podcast is The Pursuit of the Perfect Race. So what is your definition of a perfect race?
Wow. For me, that would be what I'd thought about, how I trained, and what time I would want for my swim, what time I would like for my bike, what time I would like for my run, and my overall time. And if I reached those three and my overall time of what I hope for that race, that would be my perfect race. And not to have any tummy issues.
So no tummy issues, nail the times you want.
Yeah. So for, say, I feel I can swim a 110 and I hit a 110 or below. I can bike a 6 or 6:15 and get under that and run and right now I personally believe on the right day I can come off of a bike and run a 4:15, 4:30. I know I can. I run really well, and that's what sort of irks me coming off of Bolton. It was a 5:25, and that was just because of the way I was feeling. And I know I've got it in me. So, yeah, that would be a perfect race for me. Hitting the times for the distances of each genre and my overall time, and feeling good inwardly.
Wow. Well, Kevin, just want to thank you so much for sharing your experience. I look forward to following you in the future.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the chance to tell you my experience.
Awesome. Well, you have a good day, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, mate.
All right. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.